Good morning, you lovely people. How are you? Well, I hope you're well. We're all good here too. As usual, I'll give you my brief South London weather update. Today is vile. It's grey, it's cold, it's raining, it's autumn already, yet here we are still in August. So a little bit miffed about that. My son is doing this kind of like sports camp thing because he's still on his summer holidays. So I walked him there this morning and the pair of us looked like drowned rats. So I was wearing a very potent perfume, which will be revealed as we go through this list. And it kind of cheered me up a bit. So I thought, well, I've had quite a lot of interest in this, and this is something that I've been planning for a while. So today what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at my collection of Montale Mancera perfumes. A little bit of a chat about the origins of the company first. But before we get into that too much, now there's an awful lot on the internet about Montale. Pierre Montale and, you know, Montale Paris, and then there's another Montale that kind of muddied the water, shall we say. And there's a lot of legal ramifications. There's a lot of wrangling, there's a lot of court cases and all sorts of nasty disputes. So I've looked into it and I've researched it as much as I can. And the idea was, originally I was going to do a video on the subject, just to try and clear things out. I mean, it's all there for you to research if you want to. But I looked at it and thought, no, I'm not going to get involved. We're a perfume review channel. Me and Rich, we wear perfume, we adore perfume, and we review it. So that's kind of what we're going to stick to. I don't particularly want to give opinion or possibly give false information, because all the juicy stuff that I've read and found and stuff like that all seems to come from blogs. Now, the problem with that is, if you've done any kind of research yourself, you'll know that anyone and everybody has an opinion, and it's really, really easy to put an opinion in word form and put it out on the internet, or make a video and put it out there. But unless you can cross-check that opinion with fact, it becomes difficult. And I don't want to leave questioning sense wide open for all sorts of libel and stuff like that by spouting, opinion to you as fact, and that's not a really good thing to do. And also, it won't help clear up the argument, because I've got nothing definitive to give you. As I say, this would just be a rehashing of other people's opinion, which I don't think is a really particularly bright thing to put out on the internet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the perfumes and a little bit about the houses, and then I've got 10, and we'll run through them very quickly, sort of whistle stop tour. And just to give you some feedback, really, because I really like them. Sometimes they get a bit bashed a bit for being a bit synthetic, but that doesn't bother me in the slightest, because this is all about the smell, and every single one I own, I absolutely adore the smell of. So we can take that as that. What I will say though is they are two separate houses, Mancera and Montale. Montale came first, and then Mancera came after. Now, Pierre Montale also wasn't always called Pierre Montale. Now, this is a fact. His name changed to Montale at some point. it's all there on the internet for you to have a look at. So we will refer to him as Pierre Montale. Pierre Montale has said that he has the same team behind Mancera and Montale. So I look at them very much as the same company in different bottles. Now, they're not. Apparently, there are some subtle differences. I'm sure some of you guys that are more, avid fans of the house as well will tell me that, oh no, the Montales are for the Eastern market and the Mancera are for the Western market. I think there is a little bit of that in there. There's also, I'm sure he said somewhere that the Western market preferred the Manceras because they're a glass bottle and you can see through them, and with the Montales, they obviously come in tins, so you can never really see how much juice is in them. They also don't come full. They come with a 100ml bottle or 100. The Manceras, I think, the large Manceras are 120 and the smaller ones are 60, and the Montales are 160 in the smaller ones. But they never come, they always feel quite light, but they do seem to have, the required amount of liquid in them. So, yeah, I mean, I've got my own particular views on the presentation. I much prefer the Mancera bottles. I think they look prettier. I don't particularly like the tin bottles that the Montales come in, but that's from a selfish perspective. I take a lot of pictures of bottles of perfume for the Instagram page, and I think the glass bottles are much, much easier to photograph for a start. When you're, the brightly coloured tin or the darkly coloured tin bottles that the Montales come in are an absolute pig to photograph. So what we'll do, I was going to do them in order, my favourite, And on any given day, any one of them could be my favourite. So it's a difficult one to judge. There's a few that are really, really are spectacular, and a few that are really, really good. None are bad, none of the ones that I own. So, you know, we'll go from there. The other thing that you've got to remember when you're looking at Montale Mancera is the phenomenal output. The amounts of fragrances that they have out. I mean, I was checking on Fragrantica this morning. So Montale came out in 2003. And Mancera came out in 2008. But listen to this. This is absolutely staggering. Montale has 141 different perfumes, and Mancera has 71 perfumes. That's a phenomenal amount of liquids out there. Sorry, I've said liquid again. That's a phenomenal amount of perfumes for any house to churn out. Considering there's only 2 brands, that is just amazing. So the other thing is, with both houses, the names of these perfumes can get quite confusing. You've got this sort of blue Oud, Musk Oud, Melody Oud, Oud exclusive. It all gets very, very confusing. So, you know, when people say, have you tried this, have you tried that? When I go out sniffing, if I'm in Selfridges or Harrods or somewhere that carries the collection, they're the worst house for me to try and make mental notes on, because you'll smell them and you think, oh, that smells nice, that smells nice, that smells nice. But at the end of it, I don't know which is which. So when I go out to test them, and I suggest you do the same, research the ones you want to smell, go and smell those first and make some notes on it before you get confused with all the others. They're all good. They're all very, very interesting. There's a heap I actually want to own. You know, as I say, I've got 10, but I could easily own another 10 without a doubt, because they're always, you know, constantly putting out decent and interesting fragrances. So what we'll do is I'll stop waffling about the house and everything like that, and we'll just actually look at the perfumes themselves, and we'll go through it from there and see what you think. Okay, so first up, I'm going to talk about this one because it's the easiest one to get out the way first. We've got 10 to get through, so I'm going to try and keep this as quick as possible. And this is Mancera's Cedra Boise. The reason I can talk about this first, it's not because it's my least favourite, because it isn't. I love the stuff. I've had this bottle for quite a while and I've hammered it. Rich has a bottle as well. It's just gorgeous. It's an anytime, any place, anywhere fragrance. It's a fruit. It's not an Aventus clone before we go down that road. I really don't think it is. This is a fruity citrus with some warm sweet woods and a lovely musky sort of citrusy dry down, but the woods become more and more sort of prevalent. I have heard that there's been some kind of, it's been reformed a little. It's not quite as good a performance as it used to be. This is a good, strong performer for me. It's not beast mode, but it does last. It gets me through a day at work and I just love it. It also gets a lot of compliments. It smells amazing on people. I think it's unisex. It's probably slightly masculine leaning. This is certainly one for the younger thrusters and for us old gits as well. So I really, really like this. If you've not tried it, where have you been? I think everybody in the world that's interested in fragrances has come across Cedra Boise at one point. It's well worth exploring. For some people, it doesn't work, but for me, it really, really does. I think this is just a non-challenging, perfectly enjoyable, citrusy, sweet, fragrance. It absolutely blossoms in heat, but it works very, very well in the cold as well. So highly recommended sampling this one. Right, next up is one that everybody loves. Everybody talks about this one, and this is my least worn of all of them, and that is Mancera's Red Tobacco. Now, everybody says this is amazing, and it is an amazing perfume. It's absolutely monstrous. The sweetness of it, the tobacco, the slight hint of that synthetic oud that they use in this house make it a very, very noticeable perfume. A very, very noticeable perfume. But what it is, it's taken projection and sillage and turned it up to 12. This is massive. It's such a long-lasting fragrance. When I wear it to work, by the time I come back, in all honesty, I'm a little bit sick of it. So I have to be very careful when I wear this. I don't wear this very much at all. I appreciate it. I'm glad I've got it in my collection and I enjoy wearing it. But I have to be in the mood for it, and I really do have to consider where I'm going to be and what I'm going to be doing, because it's with you full volume for the whole time. And I think sometimes that it gets a little bit too sweet for me. It's always interesting, and it's another one that gets an awful lot of compliments. It smells great on me, and I know that sounds quite conceited, but the amount of people that have told me that, I have to believe them. And it does smell really good. But it's just so bombastic. It's just raw constantly there. So, you know, some mornings I wake up and think, you know what, I'm up for it today, and I'll wear it. And other mornings I think, no, I'll wear something a little less dramatic, shall we say, a little less laborious. Is that the right word? You know, wearing, is it laborious to wear red tobacco? I don't think so. I just think you've got to be in the right mood for it, to be honest, would probably be the most succinct way of putting it. And sometimes I'm not in the right mood for it. But saying that, as I've previously said, I'm glad to have it in my collection, and every now and again I get a real strong urge to wear it. I think it's one that's probably winter leaning. Certainly I think it's unisex. Again, this is a masculine fragrance. It's pitched for, you know, the sort of the macho thrusters out there, but I think anyone with any confidence can wear this. I don't think there's any issues with that at all. But it is a very long lasting, hard hitting fragrance, so you must be aware of that before you get it. Don't blind buy it, please get a tester. Even if you like tobacco fragrances, I still recommend that you sample that one first, because it is quite an experience. It's very, very intense. Okay, next up, we have Black Line from Mancera. This is lovely. I don't wear this half as much as I should do, because this is what, I don't know whether it's because I've got it at the back of my perfumes and I've applied a perfume and then I'll see it at the back and think, oh, why didn't I wear that? This is lovely. This is a sweet rose, really sweet. Very, very airy, and that signature oud is there. It kind of gives it a little bit of a chemically kind of vibe in the background, but it's not unpleasant. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's incredibly pleasant. It's that sweet, rosy, woodsy, jammy rose, but what this does that the other rose ouds that I've got from either Montale or Mancera is it's very airy. It's not intense to the skin, so once you've applied it, after an hour or so, you can still pick up on it, don't get me wrong, but it seems to be all around you. It's very cloudy. The sillage is where the magic with this one is. People have said it's quite similar to some of the MFK stuff. I don't think it is. I think this is a very uniquely Mancera smell. I mean, just opening it up now, so taking off the cap, the room this is the one that's aired out the most in the room so far. So you've got to be a fan of rose, and you've got to be a fan of sweet fragrances, that sort of rosy, saffron-y kind of thing. There's a bit of woods in the dry down. It's not overly complicated, it's airy and it's pleasant. I would think this would be a good one for work. I've worn this for work. I don't work in an office, so maybe it's a little bit too much for an office. This is certainly a good one for nights out, and very much unisex, possibly more feminine leaning this time as opposed to the others that are more masculine leaning. I think this is awesome. Really, really good fragrance. Again, one you're going to need to test. Right, next up, we have Montale's Spicy Oud. This is one of the first I got from them. And again, you know, this is a little tiny bottle here, but it's still a 60ml apparently. I like this one. I went away a while back, a couple of years now, for a weekend with my family, and this was perfect. I just stuck it in a little bag and off it went. It's called Spicy Oud. Now, that's a little bit misleading, because to me, this is another oud rose fragrance. It actually does remind me of quite a bit of one of my other more expensive fragrances, which is Duetto by Sospiro. It doesn't, when you put them side by side, they don't smell alike that much, but when you wear them, I'm reminded of the Sospiro. So this is a good one. It is spicy, and it's woody, but it's got a lot of vanilla and a kind of an edgy rose to it, and obviously the oud. This has a very, very loud opening. It kind of belts out straight away. After an hour and a half or so, it does calm down. It's slightly closer to your skin, but it's not a skin scent. It's a little bit more than that. So I think this is an excellent fragrance. Again, totally unisex, possibly a little bit more feminine leaning. But obviously I'm an old git with a beard, and I'm very, very happy to wear this one. So give it a go. Spicy Oud, well worth a look, but you must be a fan of rose, and you must be a fan of the oud. Next up, let's go this way. So I don't know if this is, pretty much all of these are going to have their own reviews in the basement. So if you go rooting around in my basement, you'll find pretty much reviews of all of these. So we'll have a look at this one now. This is the oud. Now I think, if I remember rightly, this is the first one I got from either of the houses, and I love this. Guess what? It's another rose oud, but this is beautiful. The signature oud smell that Mancera and Montale use is very much in evidence here. However, this one seems to have a slightly medicinal opening to it. and it dominates. You have this kind of medicinal oud or oud type smell that comes belting out. Then yet another rose comes in, it's a sweeter rose, and it sits on top of like a leathery, woody background. Big performance, very, very long lasting. Huge projection to start off with and a very, very strong sillage. It's a very grown-up fragrance, this one. This isn't a fun fragrance, this is a serious fragrance, and I love it for that. This is a perfect work fragrance for me, and I wear it to work all the time. There's something quite satisfying about knowing when you've applied this, or most of these, you've got it. You don't have to worry about your fragrance fading away or people, you know, it dropping off or anything like that. They're very, very long-lasting fragrances. And I think they're, in terms of niche perfumery, I think both Montale and Mancera are probably the best value out there. You get these big bottles, these 120ml bottles, you know, they can be had for a good price. They're all over discounters. And, you know, they do have a very niche smell to them. They're beautifully made, and they're very, very, you know, all the ones I've got perform extremely well. So that's a well worth one exploring, and that's the Oud. Lovely stuff. I do love these bottles as well. The presentation of these is fantastic. All right, next up, we will have a look at one of my favourites, and this is from Montale, and this is Oud Amazing. This bottle winds me up from the off. I don't like the jangly bits. And this is black and gold, so, you know, you're thinking this is going to be a dark, heavy, oudy fragrance, and it's really, really not. This is all about, again, that synthetic oud note, but with lots of fruits and florals and a slightly woody base. When I did the review of this, I called this a can of giggles, and it really is a great, fun fragrance. It works extremely well in the heat, and it works extremely well, you know, when it's cold. Beautiful performance on this. It's very loud, very long lasting. The first couple of hours, this is incredibly loud. And then it calms down, but it does last very, very well. You have to like fruity, musky fragrances. There is a little bit of rose in here, but not so much. This is more about fun and fruit and oud and woods and stuff like that. Really, really good performance. And it's very likable as well. There's very little in here for people to find offensive, if you know what I mean. It's a good one, totally unisex. It leans neither masculine nor feminine. It's just a good fun frag. Right, next up, we have another favourite, and this is Instant Crush. I've done this is one of the ones I reviewed, fairly recently. This is kind of like Mancera doing their Baccarat Rouge 540 style thing. There's a little bit more rosy, there's a little bit more spice in here, but it kind of does that huge saffron blast, and it's just biblical in its this lasts like nothing on earth. I wore this to work a little while ago, and I had to pop in to see a friend, and I walked into his office at the end of my shift. So I had been at work, it had been about 8 hours since I applied this, and I went in to see a friend who is a massive frag head, and I walked in and he looked at me and went, "God, you stink, what are you wearing?" And that was this. And that, as I say, that was a good 8 hours after I applied it, and it was still chugging out. So this, you know, if you're looking for a BR540 style fragrance but don't want to spend the big bucks on it, have a look at Instant Crush. Very, very strong performer. I think it's beautiful. I actually bought this because I was getting through my Thomas Kosmala's number 4. I was getting through it quite a lot, and this is a lot cheaper than the Thomas Kosmala. So I thought I'd buy this to protect my reserves of the Thomas Kosmala. I think I may even prefer this to the Thomas Kosmala now. It's just a beautiful fragrance, and because it's got some other little tweaks to it, there's a little bit of citrus in there, there's the rose, there's some spices and things like that. It's slightly different to BR540. It fundamentally does the same thing, but I think this one just has a little bit more fun doing it. So highly, highly recommended, but you must like that airy, sweet, almost candy floss vibe. No latex glove with this one though. So well worth exploring. Right, where are we? Oh, the final 3. Okay. Let's get one of the biggest hitting fragrances I own out, and that is Mancera's Black to Black. This is another rose oud, but this one is a rose oud that spends its life in the gym eating a diet of steak and steroids. This is a massive, massive fragrance. The performance is absolutely off the hook. It does open a little bit like this one. There's almost a perceivable medicinal vibe to this oud that opens, and then it becomes all about a very intense rose, a dark, juicy, thick, non-sweet rose. But the fragrance itself is relatively sweet, but it just lifts up and chucks out and belts out Massive, massive fragrance. There's saffron in here, there's woods in here. I think there's a little bit of leather in the dry down. It's been a while since I've worn it because it's not one that I go for when it's hot. But as you can see, I've got through quite a bit of it. So when the winter comes, I will be using this an awful lot. Again, just like the others, it's perfect for work if you're working outside. Do not wear that in the office unless you're going with like one spray because it is massive. Right, next up we have from Montale, Oud Musk. This is beautiful. This is actually the fragrance I'm wearing today. This is the one I put on to cheer myself up in the rain. This is a beautiful musky, woodsy, saffrony, and then of course the Oud. Beautiful, fantastic performance. This really does last. It kicks out. It has great sillage. It's also probably the most masculine smelling scent that I own. It's just, it's not unisex to me. A very brave lady or a very confident lady can wear this without a problem as long as they're confident wearing it. This is, I've used this description before for other fragrances, but this is Burt Reynolds. This is Burt Reynolds in Smokey and the Bandit in a denim shirt, driving a fast American muscle car. This is the blokiest fragrance I own and it's absolutely wonderful for it. The reason I've got this is because it smells very, very similar to Nascimato's Duro. Which is a favourite of mine, but unfortunately at the moment Duro does not do very well on my skin, so I went for this. The difference between this and Duro is this has the noticeable opening with that Oud that Montale and Mancera use, so that is kind of there. But my God, this is a good fun fragrance. I love this. I've worn it in the heat. It's probably not designed for the heat, but it seemed all right to me. But when I get, you know, when it gets cold, this is going to be an absolutely killer frag. It's absolutely brilliant and one I thoroughly recommend. I don't hear much talk about it. I think it's probably because it's one of the older ones. But seriously, find a sample of it or find a decant of it and give it a go because this is absolutely awesome. I absolutely love it. And another one, bizarrely, that Mrs. Matt actually quite likes. So there you go. It does generate compliments, by the way, but I think that's a lot to do with the huge sillage that comes off. It's an incredibly masculine fragrance, though, so be warned. And finally, the last one, which I think in some respects is the best one of the lot. Not because I like it the most or it performs the best or anything like that, but Oud exclusive from Mancera. This is a fantastic fragrance. This is such a classy fragrance. It's another one, it's got rose in it, it's got oud in it, it's got spices in it, it's got amber in it, it's got, all sorts of weird and wonderful things in here. Again, nuclear, really, really massive projection, huge sillage. Just, I can't fault this fragrance. In fact, out of all of them, in terms of liquid, this one has got the thickest liquid of any that I've seen, and I've worn this probably the most out of all of them lately, or since I've had them. Magnetic cap on these ones, these exclusive bottles are slightly different. It's a 60 ml, and I've hammered this all through the autumn. I wore this pretty much all the time. I wore this daily. I mean, I think I did a week where I wore this for work every single day, and look, I've barely dented it because you need so little of it. If someone had told me, you know, I've said this in a previous video and I'm going to have to repeat myself. If someone had sent me a sample of this and told me that it had come from one of the much, much more expensive, more niche houses, I'd have totally believed them. It just smells absolutely divine. Beautiful stuff. It's enchanting. It's sophisticated. You will own the room when you're wearing it because it does kick out, but it's so loud, but it's so classy. It doesn't matter. This is one of those fragrances that, you know, don't wear it to a restaurant, don't wear it to an office. But if you're at a party or something like that, you will fog out the room. But it smells absolutely wonderful. So no one's going to complain that your perfume's too loud. They're all going to be enchanted by it. They're going to be asking you about it. Beautiful. Not for the shy, because you will attract attention. But seriously, well worth considering. So there you have it. This are my 10 Mancera Montale perfumes. What ones have you got? There are a few on my list that I really want to get, and as I get them, I'll update you on that and we'll do reviews of them. So there you have it, a little top 10 kind of thing, but without the top 10 bit, just 10 fragrances really. Well listen, I hope I haven't bored you. Sorry, my throat's going. And thank you very much for your time. You know, if there's any information you want with regards to any of these, hit us up here, put your questions down and I'll answer them later, or, you know, come see us on Instagram and we can chat there. So there you go. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you're well and we'll see you on the next video. Cheers and bye.